In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 103 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
And I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Man, I'm doing good, man.
Get a shirt made up like that.
I know when I hear that, when I hear both mans.
Yeah. As I adjust myself in my chair.
It's going to be a good episode.
Yeah.
So now you're admitting you have a chair.
I've always had a chair. I just went from wood, slotted to your old leather bound. Well, not leather. It's like fake leather bound chair, and you got the new chair.
I'm not even gonna.
Ergonomical.
And I started it. I shouldn't have started it.
You brought it up.
Let's do our Patreon shout-outs.
Let's do that.
We had Steph Bennett.
Hey, Steph.
Cody Hilton.
Hey, Cody Hilton from the Hilton Fortune fame.
Emily Garton.
Hey, Emily.
Cami Hanna.
Kimmy Honda.
This is a cool name.
Yeah, I do like that.
Lee Alexander.
Hey, Lee.
Crystal Kitchener.
The Kitchener Alaskan family. How you doing?
Shay DiPastino.
Oh, DiPastino.
Candace Cologne.
Candace Cologne. Smell good.
All of a sudden, she's Italian as well.
I just was rolling with it. It was easier.
Lacey Rosser.
Hey, Lacey.
It's too hard for you to switch midstream.
It is. Really is.
Danielle Deans.
Hey, Danielle.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
York Morgan.
Hey, York.
Michelle Kellums.
Callums.
Kyle.
Just Kyle?
Just Kyle.
Maybe it's not Kyle. Maybe it's Kyle.
Kile.
Kile.
Maybe it's Kile.
Yeah, Kile.
Michelle LeBombard.
Lombard.
Would you put a G-E-R on the end of it somehow?
Well, at least I didn't go like Patreon when I went Labada.
Lombada.
Yeah.
Kim Litfin.
Hey, Kim.
Steph.
Just Steph.
Susan West.
She's not East.
Susanna Moore.
Hey, Susanna Moore.
Josephine Bernhardson.
Bernholston.
Holston.
Well, I don't know. So I just go, hey.
Savannah Brooks.
Hey, Savannah.
Renee
like
Kale.
Hey, Renee.
Lindsay Henn.
Lindsay.
Laura Olenizak.
Hey, Laura, I'm sorry that he messed up your name.
And I'll tell you what, Gibbs, I don't know if I've ever been any more unsure of myself in saying a name.
Laura W., thank you.
I'm thinking there is multiple silent letters in this last name.
So this is Laura Wolski?
Woski?
Left everything out but the ending in the beginning. What's at the end?
You didn't get any of them right. There's an O in the front of it and a K at the end.
Oh. Well,
and you said Woski.
It's just Laura okay.
I don't even know where to go from that. She's like, Woski?
I guess I need to see it. See, I don't ever see the names.
I spelled it for you.
Yeah, I don't believe you spelled it right. Don't do the phonics. The phonics is wrong.
That's why I said the J silent, so we'll see.
Yeah, silent J and Bob.
Jenny Stafford.
Hey, Jenny.
Kim Bookout.
Look out, book out.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs.
Yeah.
This week we selected Buffy Brown.
Hey, Buffy.
Not only a cool name, but a very long-time supporter of the show. So big shout out to her.
Appreciate that.
And big shout out to all the new Patreon supporters and the people that continue to support us month after month. We appreciate it. We had some PayPal support as well.
Okay.
Grace Brunei.
Hey, Grace.
Craig Feuderer. Lucas Edmonds.
Hey, Lucas.
Kim Gall.
Thanks, Kim.
And Jennifer Winkler.
Oh, really, Jennifer? Well, thank you for that.
So
Appreciate it.
Big shout out to them as well.
Awesome.
So how was your week, Gibbs?
My week was better than your week.
That is true. That is true.
You know, I mean, came off of a really nice weekend and came back to the office. And while I was gone, I got your call, and I hated to hear the news that you got.
Yeah, I found out this week that I'm being laid off.
Yeah.
From a place I've worked at for 15 years. And that's tough, but
It is tough.
I'm sure a lot of our audience has gone through that.
Yeah.
And it's, it's part of life nowadays.
It is.
I was telling somebody, it's not like my grandfather's era where, when he latched on somewhere, man, you showed up for work and did what you were supposed to do. You were almost guaranteed that you could retire.
Oh, yeah.
From that place.
You get your 30 plus years in.
Yeah. Around here, a lot of it was GM, Frigidaire, AC Delco.
Sure. Chrysler, all those places.
Yeah. Places like that. It's not like that today. And it's, it's not the place that I work. And it's weird because you still work there.
Yeah, I'm still there. Different department.
Yeah. We work in different departments, but I'll be there through the end of the year, and then I got to figure something out. And maybe that figuring out includes more podcasting.
Well, I think
possibly.
I think it's a good avenue to go.
Yeah, it might.
Well, if someone reaches out to you and says, "Hey, I got this great job for you, Mr. Executive," ability.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But either way, something new is happening.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
That's a guarantee because
it's like when the forest fires come through and burn up all those old trees. You have the rebirth, man. You are the rebirth.
Are you saying my life is like a forest fire?
Well, it was. It's out
or
now.
it is right now. And
this is the rebirth.
I'm reborn.
You are reborn, and you're going to do great things, man.
We'll see. It's one of those things where you get, you feel like you've been punched in the gut, but then also you feel like maybe there's something really good coming.
Well, look, if anybody can take this, which could be a downer for a lot of people, and turn it into something good, it's you.
It's me, man.
Oh, absolutely.
I stay positive.
Oh, believe me, I have complete faith in your ability to do whatever you set your mind to it.
100% positivity.
Yeah.
All right, Gibbs, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
What if I ever said no? I haven't.
I like to ask you because I feel like it's the polite thing to do.
Yeah.
It probably gets on everybody's nerves, but...
Because they know I'm going to say yeah.
So let me change it up. Gibbs.
Yeah.
We're doing this episode. I don't care what you want or what you think.
Just stay off my freaking phone, right?
Stay off your cell phone.
Yeah.
Be present.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Betty Lou Beets.
Let's do it.
So we're in Black Widow territory.
Yeah, man. That's what happens as you get married.
It doesn't happen to everybody that gets married. But I think most people know what we're talking about when we say Black Widow, but just in case, right? It refers to a woman, normally a woman, because that kills their husband, or in the case of Betty Lou Beets, multiple husbands for money.
Yeah. Got to make an income.
And that kind of seems to happen in a lot of these Black Widow situations. They run through multiple husbands. So this episode, I believe, is going to scare some of the men in the audience, make sure they're keeping their head on a swivel. Like you said, maybe they're going into a relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe they're thinking about getting married.
Might want to think twice.
I'm not saying that's you, man. I'm not saying don't get married. I'm just saying choose wisely.
Choose.
But
really wisely.
Most of the stories that we do involve men as the killers.
Right.
Targeting female victims. That just seems to be, if you look at most serial killers, most murders really in general, outside of gang violence and things like that, but the stories that we profile are a lot of men who target female victims.
Right. Yeah.
And because of that, we hear from a lot of our female listeners that the show helps them to keep their head on a swivel, to be cognizant of, who's around them, getting out of cars, be on the lookout. We get voicemails, we get emails all the time.
We do.
But this one might be for the guys.
Oh, it's definitely for the...
After hearing this one.
Yeah.
And you know what that new relationship feeling is like, Gibby. It might be a long time for you, like it has for me, but it's all sunshine, rainbows,
Oh, honeymoon?
Unicorns.
Cotton candy?
Cotton candy. You fall in love. You get married. Hopefully you live happily ever after. But sure, you know going into it, it's going to be a tough road. At times, there's going to be bumps. Breakups happen.
Right.
You know all of that stuff going into a relationship.
Yeah. You're going to have your trials and your...
What's the one that goes with trials?
The other part.
And what is it? You started it. I didn't start this for you.
You saw me go blank.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, I'm going to run with it.
I could have said it and bailed you out.
Yeah.
And I chose not to.
Trial and tribulations. Yeah.
I'll help you eventually, but I had to let you flounder for a little bit.
So you have those. It's you
will.
But if you're in love, you work it out, get through them, and move on.
But nobody expects to fall in love, get married, and then be targeted by your spouse for money.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Well, you got to have the money first to be targeted. So some people are really safe.
No, I get that. But there are women that they don't need a lot of money.
That's true. And the old life insurance policy, too.
That's what I'm saying. To target, we'll get into it in this case of Betty Lou Beets. So she was born Betty Lou Dunavant, March 12, 1937, in Roxbury, North Carolina, to Margaret Smithwick and James Dunavant. Betty Lou would later talk about and recount that her father was an alcoholic sharecropper. They were dirt poor. She described as a child living in a shack without water, without electricity. When she was very young, the family moved to Virginia, where her parents worked in the cotton mills. Now, she had 3 siblings, an older brother and a younger brother and sister. Betty Lou had a rough childhood, and I know that's something we say a lot. We say that about male killers as well.
Right.
But she really did.
Well, I mean, she started off just living in a shed with no electric or water, so that wasn't too enjoyable.
Dirt poor, but she contracted measles at the age of 3, and this caused this very high, prolonged fever, and it left her with permanent hearing loss. And that was very tough on her growing up, especially in school, because the hearing loss greatly affected her speech as well. And Betty Lou Beets would not get any type of hearing aids until she was 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
So she went through a large part of her life with this pretty serious hearing loss with no aids of any kind to help her out. She's also made the claim that her father and others, maybe even some other relatives, sexually abused her when she was as young as 5 years old.
Okay, that's gross.
I did see some varying accounts on this. I saw where she said it was her father, and then I saw some later interviews where she said she couldn't be sure if it was her father or not. So I don't know, that maybe changed over time, but she does believe that she was sexually abused at a very young age.
She just has memories or
dreams
of it happening.
I think she's got a little hazy on exactly who it was, but she believes it's somebody in her family. Her 2 younger siblings were 8 and 10 years younger than her. So quite a bit. It's pretty good sized age gap there. And this is pretty significant because in 1949, Betty Lou's only 12 years old. Her mother was institutionalized, and it was left to Betty Lou to care for her younger brother and sister. Gibbs, that's a lot to ask of a 12-year-old.
It is a lot.
Because you have to figure these kids are something like 2 and 4, 3 and 5 at that time. They're very young.
There's some parents that can't even handle that.
Right. So to ask a 12-year-old to take care of these 2 young kids, it's really a lot. And probably in large part due to this, Betty Lou dropped out of school after the 9th grade, and she got married at 15 years old. She married her first husband, Robert Branson, in 1952. The next year, by the time she was 16, she had her first child with Branson. This is a daughter that they named Faye. Betty Lou claimed that this relationship was abusive from the very start. And it didn't last long at first. Within the first year, they separated. There are reports that she attempted to harm herself. And after that incident, she and Robert got back together and they moved to Texas. But they would go on to have 5 more children together and be married about 17, 18 years. I think Robert finally divorced her in 1969. So he's abusive. And this is something we're going to talk about a lot. You know, she had a rough childhood. She had a pretty rough life too. We're going to talk about a series of men. And from all accounts, she experienced a lot of abuse in her life. Life was rough for her after the divorce. She was left with a gaggle of kids. I don't know if that's the right word, but...
Gaggle?
Yeah. Is it a gaggle of geese? I don't know what you call a bunch of kids.
Well, probably just
a bunch of kids. But she's got a bunch of them, and she's got no marketable skills. Right? She dropped out of school at the age of 15. She'd been a homemaker the whole time that she was married to Robert Branson. Now she's got to go out and get a job to support these kids. Add on to that, Gibbs, the fact of her significant hearing loss and trouble with speech. She's got a lot of things, not in her favor.
Right.
At this point in her life.
She's got a lot of knee walls to get over.
What's a knee wall?
A wall that comes up to your knee.
Oh.
Got to hurdle over, jump over.
Those don't seem that hard to get over, though.
I mean, you think you can get over right now?
A wall that comes up to my knee, I could just step over. I could step over as many as I wanted.
You think? You don't know what's on the other side?
Now, if you said a wall that comes up to my head, that would be much more challenging.
I just have to bring the wall up to your hip.
Anything that takes up her body strength.
Mid-thigh probably stops you.
Changes the whole equation. But if I just have to step over it like Godzilla, I can do that.
Yeah, all day long.
That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Now, Betty Lou says she didn't drink up until the time of her divorce, but she began drinking heavily after it.
Well, divorces will do that to you, man.
They can be very rough on people.
Yeah.
She said at times she worked 2 to 3 jobs, waitressing, cashiering, to support the family because apparently Robert wasn't giving her much money. She said that, he would drop by every now and then, give her $50 for the kids, but there would be long stretches of time with nothing. $50 doesn't go that far if you have to feed and clothe 5 kids.
I don't know if you could even get feed all 5 kids at Taco Bell for $50. No clothes though.
Well, today, but I mean, we're talking back in the 69, 70.
Yeah.
You could get a bunch of tacos for $50.
Yeah, that's true.
Back then.
Yeah, like 25-cent taco night.
Yeah, tacos used to be like for not even $5, for $2 at Taco Bell when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It seemed like you could get the whole menu.
Yeah, you did.
Like things were like 10 cents or 15 cents.
You felt good about it.
Makes me feel very old, but.
Well, you are old.
Now you can't even hardly buy anything with change anymore at Taco Bell.
No.
Everything's like $1.50, $1.89 or something.
Got to break it 10 or 20.
Now, eventually some of the kids left, married. One of her daughters married at the age of 15, just like Betty Lou did. And some of them she shipped off. Some went to live with their father. Some she sent off to live with other people. At one point, all she had was her youngest, Bobby. And I think he was about 3 at the time.
Okay.
But Betty Lou wouldn't be single for long. And this is something that we're going to hear time and time again. She met a man named Billy York Lane, and they married the very next year. Now, to say that this was a tumultuous relationship would be probably understating it by quite a bit. Billy was extremely abusive to Betty Lou, to the point that she had to get a restraining order against him, Gibbs, 3 months into the marriage.
Really?
That's not good.
It's not good. I've heard people say weeks within their marriage, the husband comes back and just somebody different.
Really?
Yeah.
See, now you would think there's a honeymoon period. There's normally some period of time where you're in that honeymoon phase after a marriage. Now, I know it ends in some marriages earlier than others, but I thought 3 months was very quick. You're talking about weeks.
Weeks, months, man.
I didn't know the restraining order phase could come that quickly in a marriage, but I guess it can.
Yeah. Some people are just want to go through the motions, say they're married.
It just seems strange for me to somebody would change so quickly after saying I do. Or did they change? Were they that person before?
And just put a good...
And either the other person went through with it anyway, thinking that they would change? I don't know.
Yeah, start telling.
I mean, what does the words I do change that quickly within a couple of weeks? But for Betty, Lou, and Billy, I mean, this marriage must have been pretty bad from the word go. To get to that point within that short amount of time, that you're filing a restraining order within 3 months of the marriage, it was so bad that they divorced the same year they were married.
That's bad.
It is bad, but apparently the abuse didn't end with the divorce. The next year, Billy and Betty Lou were involved in an altercation where he broke her nose. The year after that, Betty Lou says that Billy threatened to kill her. And this was not a good idea on his part, Gibbs, because Betty Lou didn't take that very well, which I don't think most people would, but she took it to a whole nother level. She shot Billy Lane twice in the back for threatening to kill her, but he survived. And there are some varying stories on this one. It's probably something I'm going to say a lot because, you know, you have Betty Lou's account on things, you have other people's accounts. Betty Lou said that Billy was upset after seeing her at a bar with another man. There are some stories that she was intentionally egging him on, right? She would find out where he would be at night. She would go to that bar. She would flirt and dance with men in front of him. That's why I say there's varying stories on this. She continues with the fact that he followed her home and threatened to kill her. Now, Billy's story at the time was that she called him on the phone and begged him to come over. And when he did, he found her holding a gun. But either way it happened, he ended up with 2 bullets in his back. That part's not in dispute.
That's not good.
Because the police were called. Betty Lou told them her story of the events and said it was self-defense, but they didn't buy it. And they arrested her. And she was set to stand trial for trying to kill Billy when all of a sudden, Gibbs, he stepped in. And Billy Lane signed an affidavit saying he had threatened Betty Lou, threatened her life, and that it was her story that was true and not his. So with that, they reduced her charges, and she pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of misdemeanor aggravated assault. Is a big difference from attempted murder.
It's a huge difference.
She walked away from the shooting after paying a $100 fine and $50 in court costs.
Wow.
So
that's it.
$150 and you're out the door scot-free versus she was on trial for attempted murder and if convicted would have went away for a very long time.
Yeah.
But that's not even the biggest shocker of this whole part. These two get remarried not long after all of this happened.
I think that's always crazy.
And it's probably very hard for you to believe, but this second time around lasted about a month.
Shocker. I mean, I get some people do remarry. Mm-hmm. Probably didn't need to get divorced the first time. They just needed to work through some things.
Sure.
But what they were describing, they needed to be divorced and stay.
And never see each other ever again.
Yeah.
He's extremely abusive. She shot him twice in the back. I think you just go your separate ways after that trial. And
yeah, if your life, if your marriage could be on Jerry Springer, probably need to move on and not come back.
Right. They didn't have any kids together.
Yeah.
So they could have just separated and said, hey, you stay on this side, I'll stay on that side.
Right.
You know. Billy Lane died in 1982 from natural causes. But you have to wonder about him changing his story.
Yeah.
You know, did he do it because that was the truth and he had a change of heart, he didn't want to see her go to prison, or was it what he needed to do to get back with her? I really don't know. I don't know what the truth is.
I don't either, yeah.
But I find it very interesting. All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsors. And the first one I want to talk about is ExpressVPN. You and I talk about gruesome crimes, murders, kidnappings, and those type of things worry people. But you know what doesn't and should worry a lot of people is cybercrime. In just a few seconds, you can become a victim. Some hacker with the right know-how can easily intercept your data, steal your passwords, get your personal information. So to protect myself online, I started using ExpressVPN. And it's so easy to use. It runs in the background. It takes one click to turn it on. And ExpressVPN secures and gives you anonymity while browsing the internet. It hides your public IP address. So I don't worry. I can surf safely on public Wi-Fi. And for less than $7 a month, you can get the same ExpressVPN protection that I use. ExpressVPN is rated the #1 VPN service by TechRadar, and it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/TCAT. That's expressvpn.com/TCAT for 3 months free with the 1-year package. Visit expressvpn.com/TCAT to learn more. And next, Gibbs, let's talk a little bit about Home Chef. You and I are loving this meal delivery service. And let's face it, there are a lot of them out there. There's a lot of options. So how do you make the decision about what meal delivery service is best for you? We are all extremely busy. Going to the grocery, prepping meals for the week, it can be difficult. We're working late, we're taking the kids here and there. Home Chef offers 16 different delicious meal options each week. Steak, chicken, seafood. They have vegetarian options. Once you join, all you have to do is select your meals, customize your delivery dates, and your box arrives at your doorstep each week. It comes with recipe cards. All the ingredients are fresh and pre-proportioned. All you have to do is put everything together in about 30 minutes. They even offer 5-minute lunch option. There's no one listening out there that cannot cook these meals. They're that easy, but they're delicious. My favorite right now is the Japanese barbecue burgers. Unbelievable. The meat is great, coleslaw, the sauce, the buns. It's a great meal. So go to homechef.com/TCAT for $30 off your first order. That's homechef.com/TCAT for $30 off your first order. homechef.com/TCAT. So a year after this, Betty Lou is working in a topless bar and she's got a new man in her life. It's a man named Ronnie Threlcold. And Gibbs, we have to talk about this. This woman could pick up men seemingly at the drop of a hat.
Really?
I mean, it seems to me she was never very long without a man in her life.
You're good like that.
That I never go very long without a man in my life?
Yeah, and you can pick them up just like that.
Well, now you're just making me blush.
I know. Get your cowboy hat on, your boots. You sell it.
Oh, I can sell it.
Yeah.
If I need to sell it, I can sell it.
Mr. Rhinestone Cowboy.
But she could. I mean, she could pick up men very easily. Now, yeah. I'm not sure how good she was at judging the character of these men, because it does seem like she had a bad picker, but she had no problem finding men, finding a man at all. She married Ronnie, and that marriage lasted about 5 years. But it hit the skids literally in 1978 when she tried to run him over with her car.
If you're going to run somebody over, you better be really good at it.
And not just try.
Yeah, you can't try. You have to actually...
Don't try, do.
Do it. Yeah.
But something like that does tend to sour, a relationship pretty quickly. There were newspaper articles from back during that time period that kind of talked about the incident, saying that really the only thing that saved Ronnie was, number one, the sound of the engine. And apparently they were on gravel. So maybe some peel out, he heard the gravel. He had just enough time to dive out of the way. So not shockingly, Betty Lou and Ronnie divorced in 1979. But later that same year, she met and married a construction worker named Doyle Barker. Again, Gibbs, she's not even really going calendar years between marriages.
So Doyle, there's a Southern name.
Is it?
Yeah, Doyle. You don't hear that up north. That's definitely a Southern name.
I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now you know.
Now I learned something on this episode from you, Gibbs.
We get like 5 people.
I'm going to get 100 emails.
Yeah, I'm up in Minnesota, New York.
Saying,
my name's Doyle.
Doyle is a northern name. What are you talking about? Now, the next year in 1980, Betty Lou was involved in a serious car accident, and she suffered what were called severe head injuries. And you have to wonder, Gibbs, as much as you and I talk about head injuries, now, normally we're talking about those in someone's childhood, but you have to wonder, do these have anything to do with some of the crimes that are later getting ready to occur?
Could be.
You have to ask the question, because in 1981, October of 81, Doyle Barker vanished off the face of the earth, never to be heard from again. Now, what Betty Lou told friends and neighbors was that they had a fight and Doyle took off. But how he left was somewhat of a mystery, since he didn't take his truck. He left his truck behind.
No guy leaves his truck behind.
No man leaves his truck behind. That's like a soldier leaving a man behind.
Yeah, or leaving that one piece of bacon on the plate. You know,
Well, nobody does that.
you always eat the last piece of bacon.
I eat mine and then I take my kids' bacon.
Yeah, and they drop it on the floor.
And
I
I
pick it up off the floor.
I call that a bacon tax.
Bacon tax. I like that.
One from you, one from you.
Yeah.
Everybody pays a bacon tax. But I get it. You know, a man leaves a marriage. Fine. Is he going to leave his truck? No.
No.
That should have been a red flag right there.
He's going to take his truck and his dog.
If he has a dog, he's going to take that too.
If he picked the dog out.
Now, he really vanished because Betty Lou shot him 3 times in the head with her .38 caliber pistol. Then she called her daughter Shirley to come over.
Don't call me Shirley.
Don't call me Shirley, but she did call Shirley.
Yeah.
Said, hey, come over to the house, help me bury Doyle's body. And they did. They buried it in the backyard in a pit that Betty Lou already had a crew dig.
Wow.
It was already ready. I think she told them that she was building like a barbecue pit or something.
Oh, yeah.
So she had this construction crew come out and dig a pit. It was already there, ready. She knew what she was going to do.
She did, man.
So after they buried Doyle's body, they built a stone patio over the gravesite.
Oh, so you couldn't dig it up later.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty smart.
Now, I will say that's a phone call that you really don't want to get, Gibbs. You know, hey, if you have time, can you swing by and help me bury a body in my backyard?
For the right friend, you might do that.
Well,
you know?
I was getting ready to say, I kind of know firsthand. My wife has said stuff about it. We really wish you would stop calling at all hours of the night,
well,
asking me some of these same types of questions.
You do have the truck.
I do have a truck, you're
So
right.
it does help.
If there's ever a phone call between like 2 and 5, my wife automatically says, is that Gibby?
She knows it's me.
And what is he up to? What is he up to now?
Again.
Now, about 8 months after she murdered Doyle, at some point in between, she had divorced him. She married again. 8 months later, right?
She's fast.
This time she married a man named Jimmy Don Beets, a retired Dallas Fire Department captain whom she'd met at a bar where she was a waitress. And I know it's taken us a while to get there because this woman did have a lot of husbands. But obviously it's from Jimmy Don where she got her final last name, the name that she's known by.
Right.
I also think it's kind of strange, right? And I know we're in Texas. We got Betty Lou and Jimmy Don. And I'm going to get some hateful emails from Texas.
Okay.
Because apparently I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before, compared Texas to Georgia.
What?
And got some
What were you thinking?
strange emails about that. I don't remember even doing it.
You can't mess around with the SEC world.
That's Big 12 versus SEC.
I'm just saying you need to let Texas be, let Georgia be. Don't be putting them up against each other.
I don't even remember doing it, but apparently I
either.
did.
I don't remember what you said. I probably said, "Oh, don't say that."
You did. I think somebody said that in the email.
Yeah.
Gibby tried to slow you down, but you said it. Jimmy Don moved into the house. I think it was a trailer, but
Yeah.
that Betty Lou had shared with Doyle. Right? So she kills Doyle, buries him, Now she's remarried, brings this guy into the trailer that the two of them shared before. And at one point, Betty Lou asked Jimmy Don to complete some projects around the trailer. Now, we're in Gun Barrel City, Texas, which seems like a strange name for a town, Gun Barrel. But it's about 60 miles south of Dallas. And you know how much I love Dallas. It's one of my favorite cities.
Another place you get to wear your boots.
And not even because of that. There is just something about Dallas. I love that city.
Well, maybe somebody down there has a job for you.
Maybe. That's a very unique town name, though. Gun Barrel City.
Gun Barrel City.
Nowhere else but Texas can I imagine there being a Gun Barrel City.
I just Googled it. There's 5 other gun barrel cities, all in the upper, like New York and Chicago. Or I'm not telling the truth.
I can guarantee you there is not a Gun Barrel City in New York.
Yeah.
Because if there was, somebody would have already changed it.
That's true.
Can't have it say Gun Barrel.
That's not good.
In New York.
Nope.
All right, got off track there. So Betty Lou is having Jimmy Don do some projects. The first project is she wants a shed built on the stone patio that just happens to be covering Doyle Barker's body. Because as Betty Lou put it, they needed a place to store things that were cluttering up the house. So that's how she got Jimmy Don to build this shed. Then later on, she had him build a wishing well out in the front yard because Betty Lou thought it would spruce up the place.
Now, there's people on this podcast right now that have those little wishing well landscaping things in their yard.
And that's fine.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything about it.
You like them?
I'm not saying anything about it. This is a faux wishing well.
Right.
Right? A fake, faux, quasi, whatever you want to call it.
Just go quasi?
Quasi.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a decorative landscaping wishing well.
Yeah.
It's not functional.
No.
Nobody's going to walk by with their dog and throw pennies in there.
Be funny if they did.
It would be.
I would every day I walk by just to make the neighbor be like, Gibbs, come on.
I don't even think there's water in this one.
Probably not. They're probably just one of the fake ones.
Yeah, because I think later on we'll talk about she plants some flowers in it or something. But it's some very eerie foreshadowing in this story. No way, right, that Jimmy Don could have known he was building a shed to cover up the burial site of Betty Lou's fourth husband.
Right.
That she murdered. And no way that he could have known that when he was building this ornamental wishing well, that this would very soon in the near future become his burial site. Because he built this thing
right
just days before he was killed. And like I said, Betty Lou even planted some flowers in the wishing well.
Oh, she went all out.
She went all out. So let's talk about August 6, 1983. Betty Lou called the police to report her husband, Jimmy Don Beets, missing. And what she said to police was that he had gone out night fishing, which is very plausible.
Yeah.
I love to night fish.
It is fun on a nice night out.
Mm-hmm. But he never returned home, right? This is what she tells police. The reality of it is that Betty Lou shot Jimmy Don twice in the back of the head, killing him.
Boom, boom.
Double tap.
Double tap.
But not only that, but she had told her son Robert beforehand of exactly what she was going to do, her entire plan. Then she even listed Robert's help to help her bury the body.
Right.
And where did she bury it? Underneath the ornamental wishing well.
Because that's what she does.
That the man she just killed had made or,
right.
Sentimental
value?
3 days earlier. There's sentimental value in putting the husband you just killed underneath the wishing well?
Well, if you're going to put it that way.
But she's, obviously she planned ahead. She planned ahead with the barbecue pit. She planned ahead with the wishing well. These things didn't happen spur of the moment.
No.
And it's going to be important when we talk about later on down the road why she says some of these things happen. So she's killed her latest husband, Jimmy Don. And then she and her son Robert took the fishing boat to Cedar Creek Lake and put it on the water and just let it, drift. Inside the boat, Betty Lou dumped some of her husband's nitroglycerin tablets that he took for his heart. The idea was to make it look like he had a heart attack while he was out fishing and he fell into the water and drowned. So there's all these agencies that begin the search for Jimmy Don, but they don't find him. Well, we know where he is and we know why they don't find him.
Right.
But what they do find on August 12th is his boat adrift on the lake. Inside, they find the heart pills. They find his fishing license and a life vest. They also find his eyeglasses, which is something that raised some suspicion with police. So they called Betty Lou down to the marina where they found the boat. I guess it had washed up or drifted, next to the marina.
Right.
They had her identify the boat and the things in the boat as belonging to her husband. They continued to search for his body for a number of weeks, but they never found it. And then 2 years went by. No discovery of the body, really no further information about what happened to Jimmy Don. But during this whole time, right, the community comes out in support of Betty Lou. You got to think about what happened to this woman, Gibbs. She had a husband who ran off on her, totally left her. She gets remarried very quickly. Now, all of a sudden, this husband has vanished as well.
Trending.
Poor Betty Lou.
Poor Betty Lou.
Right? Things aren't going well for her. That's what
can't keep the husbands around.
That's what a lot of people in the community are thinking at first. But at a certain point, as people would do, they start to wonder. And a lot of it comes from how she's acting. She starts asking people questions very early on about how she can get her hands on her husband's insurance money, his retirement benefits, very quickly, right? And that always raises some suspicion.
It always has to.
At one point, she even apparently burned his house to the ground.
I never get that. How does that help out?
To try to collect insurance money? It normally doesn't, because firefighters and the investigators, fire investigators.
Investigators?
Yeah.
Arson investigators?
Yeah, they determine it's arson. This funny thing about insurance companies, they don't like to pay out.
No, they don't.
When it's determined that you burned your house down on purpose. I mean, they don't like to pay out anyway.
No.
Sorry for those of you that work for an insurance company, but that's kind of their whole business model. We like to collect the premiums, not so much into the paying out of claims. But then all of a sudden, Gibbs, out of the blue, police got a tip from a confidential informant claiming to know what happened to Jimmy Don Beets. The source said that he was killed, and they pointed the finger at Betty Lou. Pretty quickly, police began to look in her direction. And then not long after that, another tip came in, essentially saying the same thing. And it's the timing of these tips that's almost eerie, because it was just right before Betty Lou was set to get all of the money from Jimmy Don's estate, that she had been desperately trying to get for a couple years now. She's just about ready to get her hands on it, and people drop the dime on her.
Man, teach her.
But that was it for investigators, right? They get a warrant to start digging at the Beets property based on the information that they got. And investigators unearthed the remains of Jimmy Don Beets, which were in a blue sleeping bag about 4 feet deep underneath the faux wishing well. Now I'm calling it faux.
You are calling it faux.
But that's where they found it. So obviously they got some really good information, right, from the tipsters, because then they found and dug up the body of Doyle Wayne Barker from underneath the shed.
Right.
He was also buried in a matching blue sleeping bag. So they found 2 .38 caliber bullets in Beets, and they found 3 .38 caliber bullets in Barker. Ballistics matched all 5 bullets to a gun from the Beets residence. And Betty Lou Beets was arrested that very same day. It's not looking good for Betty Lou.
Not looking good. BLB.
Not looking good for BLB. Mm-mm. She was charged and indicted for the murders of both Doyle Barker and Jimmy Don Beets. And she told the judge at her bond hearing that she didn't kill either man. And she had no idea, Gibbs, how their bodies ended up buried on her property. I got no clue.
Just happened.
They didn't give her a bond.
They shouldn't have.
They weren't going to let her out. But what also happened was they charged Betty's daughter, Shirley, in connection with the death of Doyle Barker.
Well, I get that for sure.
True Crime All the Time is sponsored by BetterHelp. You know, folks, therapy can feel like a big investment, but let's think about the state of your mind. It's just as important as your physical health. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up really fast. But with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save, on average, up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. And you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach. I've used the BetterHelp service for years. And I love the fact that, I can connect with a therapist in a comfortable spot in my home on my laptop. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/TCAT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/TCATT. Even the smallest step forward can make a big difference in your financial future. When you open a Chime checking account, you're one step closer to a better financial future with no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Making progress has never been easier. I think we've all been in that position where we've had an overdraft. Well, with Chime, you can overdraft up to $200 with no fees. That's amazing. And they have over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Make progress towards a better financial future with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/TCAT. That's chime.com/TCATT. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. MyPay eligibility requirements apply. Credit limits range from $20 to $500. $2 fee applies to get funds instantly. Crime checking account required. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. The trial of Betty Lou Beets began October of 1985. It didn't last all that long. The prosecution presented their theory that she murdered her husband, Jimmy Don, to get her hands on over $100,000 in insurance money and retirement benefits.
Well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get that money.
Really? Because it really sounds like you're condoning this.
Oh, no.
You just said sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
If I was in her shoes.
Again, you're condoning what she did.
If I was in her shoes. And I was a bad person.
And you were a bad person.
Yes.
But you talked about a lot of money, right? And I'm not saying $100,000 is not a lot of money, but it's not millions of dollars. And I think people kill for a lot less than what most of us considered to be a lot of money. I don't really think it takes all that much in some cases.
No.
For people to get greedy and kill other people.
You see what happened in The Lord of the Rings over that little ring, man.
You're really stretching it now, Gollum.
Yeah.
But the prosecution went on to say Betty Lou took that .38 caliber pistol, shot Beets in the back of the head while he was sleeping.
Wow.
And Betty Lou's own son, Robert, testified at her trial that she told him she was going to kill her husband while he was sleeping and that Robert should leave the house for a couple of hours. So this is your own son.
Right.
Not Jimmy Don's son, a son by, from another marriage.
Right.
Now, Robert said that he didn't know for sure that she would kill him, but he suspected she would. I don't know what that says about your mom. I wasn't sure if she was joking or not, but you know what? I was pretty sure she was going to kill him.
I think so.
He also testified that when he returned to the house, he saw Jimmy Don Beets' body in a sleeping bag, and his mother asked him to bury it under the wishing well. He went on to tell the jury about how his mother instructed him to take the fishing boat to the lake the next morning, remove the propeller, and, set it adrift on the water. It's not good when your son's rolling over on you like that.
No, it's not good at all. So no loyalty there.
But it wasn't just him. One of Betty Lou's daughter, Shirley, also testified for the prosecution that her mother told her she planned to kill Jimmy Don a couple of days before he was reported missing. And she said her mother called her around midnight on August 5th, saying that she needed to talk. She asked her daughter to come to the house, but by the time that Shirley got there, Betty Lou said that everything had been taken care of and she could go back home. So essentially, I've already killed him. He's buried under the wishing well. We don't need you anymore. Just go on back home.
Go on back home.
The prosecution brought forward a bunch of witnesses that testified about things that Betty Lou said and did in her attempts to collect Jimmy Don's life insurance and his pension benefits after he was legally declared dead. There was testimony that she sold his boat. Now, I don't know what you make of some of that, Gibbs. If somebody really did go missing, now we know that's not what happened here.
Right.
But if somebody really did go missing, that wouldn't be all that strange, right? If they were legally declared dead, their spouse would do all of these things.
Exactly. Underneath that same umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is Jimmy Don didn't go missing. They found him under a wishing well. So the fact that she was doing all this stuff doesn't make her look all that great.
Not at all.
And Betty Lou took the stand during her trial. We know that's not something that happens all the time.
No.
I tried to find some audio of it and I couldn't. But she testified that her son Robert and her husband had a huge argument that night. And it was actually her son who shot Jimmy Don in the back of the head. So you've got the son telling on his mother. You got the mother throwing her own son under the bus. But the problem is this is really all the defense had to hang their hat on.
At least they got a hat to hang.
They got a hat to hang, but it's all around saying, it wasn't Betty Lou, it was Robert, it was Shirley, it was the kids. But when Betty Lou was questioned on the stand, she had no answers or explanations for why her fourth husband was also found dead on her property with the same exact type of bullets in his head that were found in her fifth husband's head. I'm not sure what you could even make up, Gibbs, to explain that one.
I can't even imagine what people will come up with.
Another of Betty Lou's daughters, Faye, testified for the defense. She said that she never heard her brother or sister talking about helping to bury the bodies. She never heard her mother talk about planning to kill anyone. She said, I know my mom didn't do it. She never laid a finger on me when I was growing up. And I know down deep in my heart, she is innocent. I mean, what are you going to say about your mom? Unless you know for a fact she did it.
Well, if you're loyal, you're loyal.
And then even then, you're really going to roll over on your mom?
You're going to keep that story straight as long as you can.
But what if your mom rolls on you and you didn't do it?
Then the shit comes out.
All the gloves come off.
Yeah, the loyalty deal's over.
So then the prosecution gets to their closing arguments. And this is where they tell the jury that, I don't know if this is where they told them for the first time, but this is really where they hammered it home, that Betty Lou was also charged in the death of another husband. And the prosecutor said, quote, Betty Lou turned Henderson County into a killing ground.
Wow, that's a pretty big statement.
It is. The defense closed their arguments with, again, telling the jury that it was Betty Lou's son, Robert Branson, that killed Beets. The defense attorney said to the jury, it would not bother Robbie a bit to see his mother locked up in prison or laid out on a table with a needle in her arm. They really were going after her son as the one that killed Jimmy Don.
They wanted him.
But we talk about this, Gibbs, a lot. I mean, what else are they going to do to try to save her? It's her trailer. 2 bodies are found buried in her yard. The ballistics all match up to her gun. I mean, you're at that point as a defense team, you're grasping at straws.
They don't have a lot of options.
No, they really don't. The jury deliberated for 6.5 hours before returning a guilty verdict. And apparently the night of the verdict, after it was read that night, Betty Lou was hospitalized.
She got down that night?
She got down?
Betty Lou.
That's actually pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to do a Betty Lou reference.
There was a few.
At some point.
I saved it up.
You saved that one up. And then the Monday after the verdict, it was time for sentencing. So again, the jury has to deliberate some more, but it only took them about 30 minutes. You know, they're weighing the decision, and they came back with a recommendation of death by lethal injection. So I think Gibbs, based on that, they were pretty convinced through the trial that she was guilty. They didn't have to give her the death penalty.
No.
I think they were pretty damn sure that she killed both of these men.
So they wanted her to have it, yeah.
Now, Betty Lou was indicted, but never tried for the murder of her fourth husband, Doyle. And again, maybe it's because she already had the death penalty, death sentence. What are they going to do? They're going to give her another life sentence, another death sentence.
Right.
They probably figured, why go through all that?
Yeah, why spend the county's money?
So she goes to death row. And this is years after her trials and everything. She's in prison with people like Carla Faye Tucker.
Yeah.
Darla Routier.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is pretty famous
Yeah.
female killers. But Betty Lou began talking about how she killed her last two husbands in self-defense because she was being physically abused. Now, she had never made these statements before, but because of this, all of a sudden she has a lot of people that are coming to her aid, trying to help keep her from being executed. And the national media picked this up. It became a huge story. And then even more people, right, came to her defense. All this time, her attorneys were appealing, and their appeals were based on the fact that she was a woman who had been battered, raped, and tortured throughout most of her life. They also said that she suffered from brain damage.
From that.
From the abuse,
yep.
The physical abuse that she suffered. And they said she had battered wife syndrome. And because of all that, she should not be put to death. Not only not be put to death, I think they were trying to say that...
Come on out of prison?
Yeah, that she shouldn't have been found guilty because it was self-defense. But on top of that, they were saying, you know, that she shouldn't be put to death. Now, she did get a stay in 1990 for a little while, but eventually, you know, her appeals ran out. Her execution was scheduled for February 24th, 2000. And just hours before her execution, you know, both George W. Bush and the U.S. Supreme Court rejected her appeals for a stay. So she's done. She's got no other options after that.
La Fine.
She didn't order a special last meal. And she did make a final statement when they strapped her to the gurney in the death chamber. Apparently, she didn't even make eye contact.
Really?
With, you know, any of her victims' families who were there to watch her die. The papers were pretty graphic about her execution. They said she coughed twice, gasped, sputtered, but that she was smiling as she drifted off into unconsciousness. It's kind of strange to think that you would be smiling. She was pronounced dead at 6:18 p.m., 10 minutes after the drugs were administered.
Yeah.
And she was only the second woman to be put to death in Texas since the Civil War.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know who the first was?
Since the Civil War.
Since the Civil War, who was the first woman to be put to death in Texas?
In Texas. I don't know.
We did the story. Carla Faye Tucker.
Yeah, oh yeah. That was our Patreon episode, right?
Yeah, I didn't mean to trip you up. You were probably thinking it wouldn't be her or I wouldn't be asking you about it. Or you should have thought it is her because Ferguson's going to try to trick me.
Yeah.
That's what you should have been thinking.
She was the first one ever to put on the...
She was. And I think I'm pretty sure we talked about it in the episode.
We did. It's all coming back.
Yeah. I know they all blend together, but it is strange, right? We did Carla Faye Tucker on Patreon. She was the first. Then comes Betty Lou Beets. She's in the same prison. She's the second woman after Carla Faye Tucker to be put to death in Texas since the Civil War.
Texas don't mess around.
Well, they did for a while. It was quite a long time between the Civil War and when Carla Faye Tucker was put to death.
But now they don't mess around.
Yeah, they don't mess around. And to your point, the execution of Betty Lou Beets, if I remember correctly, was the second in 2 days. They had just put somebody to death the day before.
Okay. They said, hey, we got this equipment out.
Yeah, let's not put it away.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and get this over with while we got the whole team here.
Do they normally do them that? I don't think they normally do them that quickly back to back like that.
Maybe
it's just
how
that
the dates fall.
Yeah, maybe it's just the way that the dates fell, and it just happened to be that somebody else was scheduled. They interviewed Jimmy's son, James, and he said about the execution, it's not going to bring him back. I realize that. I'm not for the death penalty, and I'm not against the death penalty. But I do feel in this case, justice was served. If Betty Lou felt like she was abused, and that's a big if, these are his words, she could have walked away.
Yeah.
She didn't have to shoot a guy in the back of the head as he was sleeping. So there's a couple of things there, right? I mentioned that Betty Lou started to come out and talk about the fact that she was abused by these two men that she killed. And that the reason why she killed them was because it was self-defense. You can tell Jimmy's son didn't believe it. He didn't believe that his father had abused Betty Lou. But there is no doubt in my mind, Gibbs, that Betty Lou Beets was the victim of domestic violence. In the case of her first three husbands, for sure.
Right.
We talked about it. It's pretty well documented. I mean, her kids have talked about it. A lot of people knew it, witnessed it, can corroborate it. But it's the issue of domestic violence with her last two husbands, the ones that she murdered, that to me is it's less clear. I don't know if it's not clear at all. I couldn't find really any information to substantiate what Betty Lou claimed, other than the one she made herself right after she was locked up. She believes she was, and at least one of her daughters believes that she was abused, saying, there's no way my mother would have done this had she not been afraid for her life. But then you look at the other side of that equation, there's a lot of people that said it just didn't happen. You know, people that recounted Betty Lou told them Jimmy Don Beets was the best thing that ever happened to her.
Right.
Was the best man that she'd ever been with. Jimmy's son for sure has contradicted any claims of abuse made by Betty Lou at the hands of his father. And he points to a lot of friends that have come forward saying that they heard it directly from Betty Lou. The 11 months she spent with Jimmy Don were the happiest of her life. So it didn't seem like she was telling anyone if there really was abuse in the home. And I'm not saying there wasn't. I just couldn't find any evidence of it. And you know, let's not forget, at trial, she tried to blame two of her children for the murder of Jimmy Don.
Yeah.
She didn't say it was self-defense.
No.
She tried to put the blame on her own two children. If she was being abused, why didn't she offer that up?
Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot of people, the question that a lot of people ask. Now we know, Gibbs, from doing these cases, it's hard to ever know the full truth in any of these cases that we do.
No, I think
you can do as much research as you want. There's no way to ever know exactly in some of these circumstances what happened.
100%.
Yeah. But what I can say is, from what I gathered during the research, it does seem to me as if she was abused by most of her husbands that she had early on in life. And I think she suffered some very terrible abuse. I really do. But I also think that the two husbands she actually murdered, she did so out of greed and not because she was defending herself. I just couldn't find anything to support it. And again, there was a lot of witness statements that refuted it. There was one mention of Betty Lou telling one of her kids that Doyle Barker abused her. But even her kids came out and said that they were shocked by her saying that because they never saw it.
Right.
They really liked him. They never saw any signs that there was something going on. So I don't want to downplay the abuse angle because it was there in her life. And she went through a lot. But I just think towards the end, she was out for money. And it seems as if she used what had happened to her, really happened to her in her past, to later justify these murders after she was already in prison. Again, you have to look at it as somewhat strange that the claims of abuse against Barker and Beets never came up in her 1985 trial. So obviously she never told her defense attorney about it. They would have used
They
that.
would have, yeah.
They would have brought that up as at least, if not a defense, some type of mitigating factor or circumstance or something. It seems as if she didn't even start talking about it until after she was already in prison. But that's it. That's the case of Betty Lou Beets.
Betty Lou.
Betty Lou. She had a rough life. And not just her, we talk about people having a rough childhood, killers, and a lot of them do. I think most of her life was extremely rough and hard. But she took the life of, two men, and then she was put to death.
Yeah. She got what she deserved, is the way I look at it.
But on that note, we have voicemails.
Oh, I like voicemails.
So we can do those.
Let's do it.
Hey, I just wanted to give you a fantastic compliment, which is, well-deserved. You guys are doing a fantastic job with Ed Kemper. I've heard shows and some podcasts in the past that cover him all too quickly. I'm so glad you're doing a multiple part. It is sad, but a fascinating insight because you're right, all the material and the fact that he is, I think, open and honest. You never know if they're lying, but I feel like hey, it is what it is. And I just feel like the way he puts it out there, and even when they're lying, what they learn from these serial killers and what they take away from the interviews, it's all still valuable information for maybe catching future people to do this. So it's very important to break it apart. I think a lot of people, why would you listen to that crime podcast? It's bigger than the subject matter. I do think it's about being alert, being aware, keeping your head on a swivel occasionally. I'm a very positive person, but I'm also very aware of what's out there. And your show is very respectful of, unfortunately, these victims. But it is, I think, informational as well as entertaining. And you just are doing such a great job. Best I've ever heard covered on Kemper already. And you guys are just the best. I just love you. And I have another little box I'm sending you. We need some poker chips and some beef jerky coming your way. So thank you, and I will talk to you later.
Gibbs, that was just an amazing voicemail. Appreciate that so much.
I just heard beef jerky.
Beef jerky?
No, that was a nice tweet.
Yeah, it really was. We love to hear that kind of feedback. And you and I have talked about it, Gibbs. We're very proud of the Ed Kemper two-parter.
Yeah.
A lot of work went into it, a lot of research. I think it turned out really well. But you hear her say, head on a swivel.
Yeah.
Was I talking about that earlier in the episode, right?
We were.
That we get these type of calls and we get emails from people, especially women, saying that the show is helping them to, I don't even know how to say it, Gibbs, maybe just be more alert, be more aware. And it's not just our show. People listen to a lot of crime shows or the Datelines or the TV shows. It's not about necessarily the goriness of the crime. I like what she said. It's about breaking it down. Why did it happen?
Yeah.
What would you look for if you were in that same situation?
Yeah.
Would it give you an extra moment? Would you be quicker to diagnose something that was going on that in your head is not right because you've been listening to all these shows? But again, appreciate the voicemail.
Hey, Mike and Gibby, my name's Morgan. I'm a big fan of y'all's true crime podcast. I'm a student at the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. I'm calling in with a suggestion for the podcast. I've just recently started reading up on Pee Wee Gaston. He's a serial killer from South Carolina who's also known as the meanest man in America. I would love to hear a podcast on him. Thanks, guys, for all that you do. Keep your own time ticking.
All right, Morgan, we appreciate that. Pee Wee Gaskins is definitely on the list. You and I have talked about him a number of times.
We have.
He's been on the list from the very beginning. We just haven't done him yet. Mm-mm. And I don't know how he can be the meanest man in America, because the meanest man in America is sitting across the table from me. It's a fact.
It's true. What are you looking at me that way for?
Just kidding.
We're looking at me.
Because you're so nice on the podcast. And then, like I say, we shut off the mics, and then you just get so upset and you throw me up against a wall, and you just become this completely other person.
I know. Throw the chair around.
Yeah. It's like a WWE match up in here.
Yeah. I'm like John Cicada, whatever. What's his name?
I don't know. I don't watch
Cicada. John Cena. John Cena.
You said
or
Cicada. Is he like a singer? Wasn't there a singer named Cicada?
Or we'll go with John Cena.
You got Cicada out of Cena.
That could be The Rock.
Why wouldn't you say The Rock? You know how much easier that is?
I just thought about it.
Actually, you didn't even need to say the. Just say
Rock.
Rock. Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
John
Smell
Cicada.
what I'm cooking.
I think John Cicada was a singer.
I think he is. Actually, I think he is.
We're going to have to look that up afterwards.
Yeah.
But no, everybody knows I'm joking about Gibbs, and everybody that knows him knows he is a gentle soul until you piss him off.
Hey, Gibby, this is Tanya Dancer. If you want me to hold you closer, I will. So just keep your own time.
Chicken, Gibby. Bye.
So, sorry, I can't help but laugh. But so I always listen to the voicemails through the computer.
Right.
And of course I hear this one and I laugh. It cracks me up.
Yeah.
But the first thing that goes through my head is, I cannot wait for Gibby to hear this one.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at your face the whole time that the voicemail is playing and just judging your reaction to it.
It was good. Thank you.
It was very creative too.
It was very creative.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Grace in Seattle, Washington. I am just calling to say how much I like your guys' podcast and to give my mom a shout out for turning me on to it. Hi, Mom. Keep doing what you do. I found out of some of my favorite stories from you guys, so looking forward to more episodes. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Grace, and thanks, Grace's mom.
I know, but she didn't say her mom's name. Maybe she didn't think her mom wanted her name out there.
Well, it's Grace's mom.
It is Grace's mom. I mean, everybody knows who it is now.
Yeah, I mean, so it's out there. Just saying.
Hey guys, it's Dusty from East Texas. I just had to call y'all and tell y'all cracked me up so bad the other day. I was listening to the podcast and Mike, you compared Texas to Georgia. And in my head, I said, did he just compare Texas to Georgia? And then that's when Gibby chimed in and said, did you just compare Texas to Georgia? You're going to make everybody in Texas mad. And I laughed so hard at myself. So anyways, congrats on the 100 episodes. That's amazing. I love listening, and I'm sure everybody else does too. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
So obviously, Gibbs, that's where I got that from.
Yeah.
I forget where I get stuff from, but the earlier conversation we had about me hearing about comparing, and I don't even remember doing it.
Clearly you did it.
And you don't remember me doing it or correcting me.
I don't remember
getting on me.
What I said 2 minutes ago.
No. But we always love to hear from Dusty.
Yeah, we do.
And yeah. So comparing one state to another doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, right?
Well,
unless
you do it the right way.
Unless you're in Texas, you don't want to be compared to Georgia in any way.
Well, I got to remember how you did it.
I don't. Yeah, I got to go back and listen to.
Because I like all the states.
Oh, you're very down the middle.
Love them. They all got something good about them.
Why are you using your Southern accent?
I don't know.
When you say that,
it just kind of happens.
And then when you try to do it, it doesn't sound
the same.
It doesn't sound like a Southern.
It's a whole
accent.
other different type of thing.
Yep.
So
all right. That's it for voicemails. We got some cool mailbag
I love
stuff
when we get stuff in the mailbag.
So our buddy Jill Miller from Chicago sent us our favorite Duke's sausage.
Duke's.
Shorty sausages.
Shorty sausages.
But she sent the best kind, the hot and spicy sriracha.
Made in Boulder, Colorado.
And they're great. Yeah. And Gibbs was eating some earlier. You probably heard it.
Yeah.
During the podcast.
I was trying to be quiet, but maybe I wasn't.
And then a super fan. You know, Jill's a super fan. We had another super fan, Lottie. From, I'm pretty sure Denmark. If I get that wrong, she's going to be upset with me.
Norwegian area? No, what do you call that?
Do you think Denmark and Norway are the same place?
No. What do you call that area up there?
Scandinavia?
Scandinavian. Yeah.
The Norwegian area of Denmark.
Norwegian. Yeah. Finland.
Sorry, I get a kick out of that.
All that area. That general.
That general area.
Yeah, you can circle it with a little pin on the globe.
But Lottie went a little nuts.
Yeah,
she sent us a cornucopia of nature's treasures.
Big word for you.
A lot of them Danish. She sent us a book on how to be Danish, I think.
Can't wait to read that.
I know.
How to be Danish. Could tell me how to speak Danish?
No, I leafed through it. It was like how to do certain things that they do.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. I like to know what other cultures do.
I know. And then she sent you a boatload of Twizzlers.
Oh, man.
Because you said that was your favorite.
It is. Thank you.
And she just couldn't send one kind. She had to send strawberry.
Awesome.
And cherry.
Oh, well, thank you.
And a bunch of each. And then she sent just a...
I know, you got like you said, like Gibbs, bring a truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You better bring your own
55-gallon drum of licorice.
Back up your truck for this amount of Twizzlers. And then just a ton of stuff from, her homeland. Socks and
her
tea
homeland
lights.
has socks?
Yeah, and they're special socks. And apparently they say drink less water, drink more beer.
Oh.
But I don't think it's in English, so she had to tell me what it was.
Oh, okay.
But it's cool.
Well, it makes sense, though.
They look like very finely made socks.
Well, why wouldn't you want to drink more beer than water?
Yeah, and a whole bunch of chocolate and some...
like chocolate.
Hot stuff and so...
Hot stuff.
Hot stuff.
All right.
But we appreciate all that.
We do.
We really
absolutely do. Thank you.
But that's it. That is it for another episode of True Crime All Time.
Yeah.
So from Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Inspired by the hit Wondery podcast Against the Odds comes the gripping guidebook, How to Survive Against the Odds, Tales and Tips for Animal Attacks and Natural Disasters. This might just be the most important book you'll ever read. Go inside life or death situations where everyday people survived nature's most extreme scenarios, and learn how you can too. In these tales, you'll hear about the grit, willpower, and know-how needed to endure shipwrecks, alligator attacks, earthquakes, and more. You'll learn from experts, including top doctors, about what happens to your body and mind in life-threatening situations. Plus, important tips on what to do, and equally important, what not to do when faced with a situation that is truly against the odds. Go to survivalguidebook.com to pre-order How to Survive Against the Odds today and get the perfect gift in time for graduation and Father's Day.